In legend, there was a man who took on an impossible mission. At the depths of the world was an entity so powerful that it could bring not only corruption, but an end to life itself. Our hero would take on the duty to vanquish this entity. Unfortunately, however, this mission is where he would meet his fate, and his legacy would go unknown.
More and more of my mind is fading away.
Trapped and corrupted in the abyss, we would eventually be the ones to find him. Despite becoming a shell of his former self, a withered, mind-controlled force of nature consumed by the abyss continues to pursue his mission, even in death.
My mind is breaking. My final thoughts are only a few.
Unable to use his left arm, he gets his greatsword over his back and he tees up against the likes of us in a legendary final battle. Of course, this legend I'm talking about is none other than
Simon.
Hey, hear me out. He's more than a parallel to Artorias from Dark Souls, by the way. Simon serves as an entire tribute and love letter to FromSoftware.
This is very Souls-esque with this boss.
It's the finest juice of the formula, with a hint of Berserk.
Brother, whoa, now. You got too much dip on your chip.
Now, I know some of you are telling me this is just a reach. He's just another Schizo Souls Berserk glazer who capitalizes on every instance a character uses a comedically large sword.
Hey!
OMG Berserk! Man, listen, Sandfall Interactive could have chosen so many alternative directions to executing the presentation of this boss fight. Simon could have had both of his arms. They basically nailed the presentation of the stagger into the rise of absolute aura and the presence of an external influence. They especially didn't need to exhibit a ring of light to be the backdrop of the scenery as Simon leans into the immense weight of his greatsword, which by the way, literally doubles in size. Yes, you are on the team, twin. So, I dare you to look at me in the eyes and tell me everything here is just a coincidence, not by intended design, and that I gotta hop on some medication. Man, I will see you out personally. Before I go off, there's some basic ground I have to cover. Because if there is no evidence of Sandfall Interactive having any acknowledgement of FromSoftware, why the heck would I be making this video? There's a good chance many of you watching this have played both games, but I'm also willing to bet some of you have only played one game or the other. So if there is anything to know about FromSoftware and their titles, you should know how much the dark fantasy manga Berserk has influenced each game respectively, from reoccurring themes, character tropes, visual elements, and more. As I get to dissecting parallels and regards between Artorias and Simon, it wouldn't be so far-fetched to at some point call out potentially intended references to Berserk either. Artorias himself is a literal byproduct of inspiration from Guts. In fact, there's a quote in Berserk by Mr. Aura himself that applies to all three of these characters. It's even in my YouTube bio, man. I love this quote so much.
Take heed, struggler. Struggle, endure, contend. For that alone is the sword of one who defies death. Do not forget these words.
And then we have to get into the developer side of the story with what affiliation from Miyazaki Souls franchise and influences are present in Expedition 33. It's rage bait if you vocalize the term Souls-like and Expedition 33 in the same sentence, just because it features a fantasy world with bonfire equivalents, boss battles, and a dodge parry focus as if it was the first to ever do that in any video game. But listen, I'm gonna take that rage bait a step further. Hear me out. Expedition 33 is a turn Souls game.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah, I'm just fucking with you. Game director Jan Brosch was actually infatuated with Sekiro's parry mechanic at the time of development, considering the fact that he was also doing speedruns for the game for funsies. The parrying was so satisfying to him, in fact, that he wanted to offer the same feeling in his turn-based game.
And I was playing Sekiro actually on the side when I was just developing it as a prototype. Like one night it just triggered me. I'm like, I'd like to parry in my turn-based game. So I just like tried a very quick prototype of just a dodge system in the beginning, and just changed the game immediately, completely. And I was like, this is so cool.
Aside from a FromSoft game having a direct impact on Expedition 33's gameplay, if you go to Sandfall Interactive's official page, you can see each member of the team has their respective favorite video games of all time attached to their names. So, when over half of your lead team lists at least one FromSoft title, especially Jennifer Svedberg Yen, who just so happens to be the lead writer for Expedition 33, I just don't see why they wouldn't squeeze an homage through the game's most tragically written and hardest boss, Simon. As you approach Simon's place of imprisonment, the first thing you'll notice is the name of it and how dense the area is filled with chroma. And more than that, the developers chose a real peculiar method to reaching him by plunging into darkness. It's very reminiscent to a point in Dark Souls where you're able to take the plunge into an absolute void that share the same name. This leads us into the first apparent parallel between the two characters, thematically called the Abyss. For Artorias, it kind of became his namesake due to his ability to exist within it and not be corrupted. This granted him the legendary title as we all know it, Artorias the Abyss Walker.
That's tough, my nigga. That's tough.
And here's a little detour, but did you know that Simon also has a unique title that's only listed under the name of his musical score? A peep game. Simon, the Divergent Star. A star he was. A man fueled by determination to protect his world, determined to reach its Clea. His strength was unparalleled thanks to his encounter with Paintress Clea, the one who gifted him with the power to run the ISO against the Axon of Old Lumiere. He became a force to be reckoned with, and his feats became a mystery to future expeditions.
Verso called this thing an Axon. Apparently they are incredibly powerful, with hearts of pure chroma, utterly unkillable. Except, clearly, something did.
But you know how the saying goes, the brightest stars burn fastest. Caught in the middle of the Desandra family's quarrels, his ultimate fate would diverge him into the one place where no star could ever shine up above, in the Abyss. So going back on subject in this regard, these two share a fate of being imprisoned and corrupted by it in their respective universes. Artorias' mission was to hunt and vanquish the source of the Abyss, Manus, father of the Abyss. For Simon, after Aline revealed Paintress Clea's deceit despite having given him an immense power and control over Chroma, his next mission was to head to the bottom of the monolith where Renoir was trapped.
With her help, I descended to the bottom of the monolith, where Aline had sealed him away, the one who brings the homage.
It's not specified if he ever tried to fight Renoir and rid him from the canvas entirely, but the way he words it in his journal makes it sound as if it was a battle of wits for the long run.
But his powers are strong, and I'm finding it harder and harder to fight his influence over my mind.
That said, eventually Renoir would overpower Simon, forcing him to reside in the very depths of the canvas. His final thoughts are of Clea.
My mind is breaking. My final thoughts are only a few. I despair. But one day, our suffering will end, and we will find our way back to each other. In this life, or another.
Back to Dark Souls, Manus would be the one to overpower Artorias and his companion Sif, leaving Artorias with a shattered left arm and being severely wounded. His final efforts were to save Sif, leaving her with his great shield and casted a protective barrier around her. And this is where both of these characters would meet their fate. Simon and Artorias eventually lost their minds, one consumed by the corruptive nature of the Abyss, the other unable to escape the depths of it, and his futile attempts makes for the scenery of the arena. There is poetic justice given to both of these characters though. Despite becoming a shell of their former selves and becoming brainwashed, roaming corpses, their internal mission was not yet over. Artorias repelled the Abyss so much that despite being corrupted by it, he would roam the town of Ulasil and he continued to slay corrupted inhabitants. In Simon's second phase, his internal mission brought him back up stronger than before, his love and desire for Clea.
To find me. To free me from her grasp.
Even though the voice he hears is his Clea under the influence of having been painted over by Paintress Clea, it's enough to remind him of what kept him going before losing his mind. You're still here? I got a proposal if you're enjoying this high-effort video from a channel with short over 2,000 subs. You want to be in a Q&A video as a means to be part of this growing community? More information about that at the end of the video, but for now, just make sure you're liking and subscribing, twin. Alright, for real though, I appreciate you for tapping in. I really love the stark contrast in their ultimate motivations, love and desperation as opposed to hatred and rage. To their very ends, we are the ones that find them and set them free. In his final moments, Simon grounds himself in this idea of lost honor and companionship with Verso, while Artorias, corrupt as he was, would not know companion from foe, in a fashion much like Guts, while he is possessed under the influence of the Berserker armor. In relevancy to the player, in Dark Souls it's actually us who defeats Manus, bringing honor and vengeance to Artorias. In the future, however, no one would know the truth, and his legacy would live on as being the slayer of Manus. Simon doesn't get close to anything of this type of treatment. Like I said at the start of the video, no stories, no legacy, nothing. There's one final thematic bridging towards Berserk that I'd like to give an honorable mention to, and that is a relationship and driving forces between Simon and Clea to Guts and Casca. In Berserk, what drives Guts post the Golden Age arc is his mission to reunite with Casca once she had gone missing sometime after the traumatic events of the eclipse. This event led for her severe memory loss, essentially becoming a shell of her former self. Her name actually means exactly that. Clea in the painted world shares a similar trope to Casca's in regards to losing herself, thanks to Paintress Clea abducting her and painting over her, rewiring her entire person and free will, imprisoned to a life of creating Nevrons. where Guts vowed to never lose Casca again, Simon vowed to also try and reunite with his Clea and free her from wherever she was imprisoned. Unfortunately, as we do know it, they do not reunite with each other in this lifetime. Oh man, imagine if he was named Simon Blade of Clea, Promise Consort Simon. Ooh, I would have delivered the finest standing ovation ever. But you wouldn't be hearing my hands clapping, dog. That'd be something else entirely. Oh shit. Simon is like an amalgamation of both Artorias and Guts. A reference of a reference within a reference. Shit's crazy. Anyways, off the rip, let's start off with Simon's prominent design feature, the missing arm. There's no mention in Expedition 33 as to how Simon lost his left arm, and for some reason there's this common misconception that Expedition 60, you know, the ones with the Jojo Baki builds, were the ones that essentially damn near walk him down and tear his arm off. In their journal, the expedition has an epiphany when they realize who the real threat of their world is.
The Paintress is just as trapped as we. The real terror lies beneath the monolith.
It should be obvious that they're referring to Renoir, who is trapped at the bottom of the monolith in his drafts, and not Simon. I mean, yeah, he's powerful, but he's also in a place where he can't get out himself, and he's definitely not the cause of the homage either. At the end of the day, we just don't know, like, what encounter he lost his arm in. Here's what Sandfall Interactive and I do know, however. Shout out to characters with either a prosthetic arm or a wounded left arm. Gotta be one of our favorite genders. This character trope can't exactly be in favor of the intended parallels I'm targeting, without the ever so reliable presence of the greatsword. There is a subtle correlation between the Sword Lumiere, Simoso, and the Moonlight Greatsword, a staple weapon within FromSoftware games. Now this parallel is speculation more than anything, but its design is relatively similar in shape language, and also offers a unique display of radiance to it. I hope I'm not alone on this observation, because it would be a real niche way to serve an homage and to push the tradition of FromSoftware's love child of a weapon being inserted into other games. Beyond the greatsword and lack of functioning left arm, I got two more major references for y'all, which make the whole, both found in the second phase transition. That ring of lights, I've seen it before. It's the eclipse from Berserk. I knew it! I knew it! No, hold on. I can't get ahead of myself here because this is not the first time we've seen these rings of light in display. Throughout the game, you'll see them, and I'm calling them void orbs, highly concentrated masses of chromatic energy, or so I think. Okay, bet. So they gave it a reason to exist here in the fight. Simon is a being blessed with divine power. Not to mention, the entirety of the Abyss is an area so dense with chroma that Simon has an overwhelming control over it. During the fight, he has this ability to gather chroma to a point of taking your team members down to 1 HP. Powerful enough to remove them from the canvas entirely without being a painter himself. But the thematic presence of the sudden ring formation is still warranted in its parallels to Berserk. It's symbolic and foreboding a divine intervention, from the God Hand rebirthing Griffith to Simon realizing the true potential behind his supernatural strength. Another small detail worth noting is the fact that his hair turns white. This might be because he's going berserk or something. The cherry on top to all of this, the framing, is everything. Peep the pose.
5 and 6. 5 and 6. About the same?
Yeah, they're pretty much... Can I see 5 one more time?
5 and 6.
Yeah, they're about the same.
This is gonna sound crazy, but all I've learned from Artorias and Simon is that apparently if you're an isolated individual with absolutely zero mental health, you don't aura farm. You simply become the definition, the ingredient, the recipe. If you removed a couple or even one of these key details, the parallels just aren't really there anymore. Like I've been saying, as one trained in the ways of the Force.
You know that true coincidences are rare.
You can't make this up though. I see a man missing his left arm, wielding a massive greatsword, leaning into the weight of it like Artorias, while the ring in the background serves the craziest flick of 2025. All of this just to flex on the gram. Dog, I am sick to my stomach. Dude, the shot alone could win Game of the Year. Argue with your mums. So I've already talked about the references by visual and thematic design, but the presentation of the fight is kind of what makes it, you know? It's where Sandfall Interactive gives Miyazaki and FromSoftware their flowers when it comes to the approach and how they present a boss battle, where all it takes is a first glance to know that you're about to get touched. No matter how withered, deformed, or mutilated, the sauce is sauce.
I can see what they're doing. I can see it, I feel it. It's cooking.
And before Elden Ring, it was really just about the hands, the fade, because most of the time when you entered a boss room, y'all would just start going at it with absolutely zero elaboration.
Are we gonna fight the sun?
But it's the phase 2 which soils the formula. Not every boss has a transitionary phase cutscene, and they don't need one either. When it happens in a FromSoftware game, there are 3 key things that needs to be shown.
All along.
To free me from her grasp. Would you fall now to the likes of that?
Not only does Simon fulfill the FromSoft holy trinity of a trope for hype moments and aura, but Clea's choice of dialogue grabbed me by the hand and transported me into a FromSoftware creation. It's not the boss who's talking that talk. It's the external force who glazes the boss enough to get them back up on their feet.
You, who have fought heaven and earth.
Dog, are we referring to Gojo? And all I needed to hear was the word rise to throw my hands up in the air and call it cinema.
Leave me alone!
The musical score changes, and Simon opens up this phase doing the most, as you're forced to actually learn his moveset in order to beat him. Unless of course you've got a nuclear bomb type of build that can eviscerate him in one move. I tell my friends all the time, people would hate Expedition 33 if they hated Elden Ring for how delayed some attacks could be. Simon, the hardest boss in this game, be trolling bruh. From pump fakes and slow windups into an instantaneous execution. His second phase is a force of nature to be reckoned with. Sandfall made various moments of insane exposition and presentation for other bosses throughout this game, but it just makes the most sense to save their love letter to FromSoftware with their hardest challenge yet. When you defeat him, you can finally take a look into his journal entry. Simon is like the only character in the entirety of this game with a Miyazaki-esque storytelling approach. Much like reading into the item description of a boss's soul or weaponry, you only get to know Simon's story once defeated. His journal pertains of 95% of the story that we do know in the entire game. And that's everything I've got for this video. I was going to explode into a million pieces if I didn't talk about this, so congrats if you've made it here up to this point. You gotta beg the question, why is this channel with short over 2,000 subscribers dropping high effort content like this? That's a damn good question. Hey, but how's this sound? If you've enjoyed yourself, drop a sub, keep up with your boy, and join the club. I'd make that deal. Would you make that deal?
I'd make that deal. I don't blame you. Damn good deal.
I've been having a great time growing a community and a bond with a lot of you returning viewers showing the love and support. I promise to keep expanding and continue reciprocating that energy for y'all. That said, I want to do a fun Q&A type video down the line here, so I'm gonna leave a post up for y'all to ask me anything. Please, go crazy with these questions. If you're too lazy to drop your question at the post, bruh, just do it here. But y'all should know, for content and things of that nature down the line, please don't forget that I actually enjoy interacting with all you guys. That said, yap sesh over. End video.